Hi, welcome back to the Work Witch. How was your summer? I feel like we're directly in the belly of the fall and I was not ready for it. I haven't made a YouTube video in a few months because I was recently taken on a very unexpected journey. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you in a second, but it's made me reflect on the wider context of our unexpected journeys. Maybe you've had a lot of magical experiences that were built on your intentions and you manifested things, you made them happen, you know it was you. Your combination of magic and action and intent just made something shake. And maybe you also had the opposite experience where you were looking for something else or doing something else and magic found you. And I want to talk about that today. So where have I been? I have recently become the president of a nonprofit here in Japan. And this was very unexpected for me. It was not like on my vision board or anything like that. But I've been serving on the board as a director of this nonprofit for about a year. And in July, there was a pretty significant governance crisis. And I was in a pretty unique position of having the tools and the knowledge to step into the presidency role and help direct the organization back to stability. The nonprofit is called Few Japan. Its legacy, like 40-ish years ago, was kind of built on creating spaces for executive women in Japan who were coming from mainly the US, but other countries, and were encountering Japanese work culture here and needed a space for support. So if you know anything about Japan, you might know that Japan has a notoriously low gender equality rate, especially in the workplace. And women needed a space to support each other through what that actually meant on a day-to-day basis, how that created so many different barriers and glass ceilings and lack of autonomy. But Japan has changed a lot over the years, and so has Few with it. It's adapted to welcome women from multiple professional backgrounds, professional experience levels, and in the most recent years has shifted to welcome everyone from academic researchers to stay-at-home moms and women who speak English, but maybe not natively. No matter where you're from, whether you're Japanese or not, if you speak English and you're a woman in this country, we have a space for you. As you can imagine, a journey like that for a nonprofit didn't just happen. That happened from a variety of different presidents over the years, gradually shifting what Few could be, what the community space could be, and now it's in my hands for the next 2 years. This has basically occupied most of my time over the last few months, and will continue to occupy a lot of my time for the next couple of years while I fulfill the duties of this role. But I think it's interesting because it's had me reflect a lot about magic and how magic is typically thought of as this mix of intention and action, where we sort of direct energy for a change or a shift into the world in order to bring that shift or change or thing to us. Now, I'm a word witch, and I work a lot with ancient Egyptian wisdom teachings and practices. And something that I, take pretty seriously is the idea of our spirit team and our guides and how they might influence the things that we do. And you probably have had this experience directly. Whether you work with gods and goddesses or your ancestors or the spirits of the land, you've probably noticed that they have often their own intentions. They're not just there as like a battery for your own work. Guides are just as diverse as human beings. They have their own motivations, their own ideas of what's correct or true or valuable or the right path to take. This is why it's really important to cultivate a relationship with deities or spirits where you are sort of an equal in a lot of ways so that you're not influenced too much. It's important to be discerning about our spiritual connections as much as we're discerning about who we let into our lives as close friends or who we might marry and raise kids with. And maybe you have felt the call, right? The call. How do I know a deity is calling to me? And do you even need to answer? I made a video about this a number of years ago where the goddess Nana was calling to me, and I closed that door and said no thank you. And I said no thank you because I saw the affinity. I could see why she was showing up in my life. Nana is a goddess in Norse mythology, and her sort of only claim to fame is that she was the wife of Balder. And when he died, she was so stricken with grief that she herself died too. And you can see the affinity if you know that I most closely work with the goddess Isis, who is also a grieving widow, whose cries were so frightening that a child died from hearing them. So you can imagine why there would be some affinity there. But I don't identify with a grieving widow archetype. It just doesn't sit with me. And it's not the primary reason I work with Isis. It's an aspect of her that I honor, but not the aspect of her that I attempt to embody. And so when Nana showed up to me, I said, no, thank you. Not interested in that and focusing on that or working with that energy. We're going to come back to this in a second. This summer, another deity that I've had this experience with, but less extreme, has been coming back as I've been taking on this role of this nonprofit, and that is Sekhmet. Now, as a cat person who loves Bast and loves Sekhmet aesthetically, you would think that I would work with them more closely. And I have tried a number of times over the years, and I do honor them. I think I have a statue of Bast is right here. She's like front and center today. Anyway, at the same time, as much as I liked them, I never really felt too much of a connection with Bast. I've tried numerous times to sort of incorporate her into my life consistently as well for like a 6-month period and just didn't feel anything. Sekhmet, on the other hand, I have felt come into my life, but I didn't like the idea of this bloodthirsty goddess. I'm laughing now. But a number of years ago, I think like 2018, I couldn't sleep. I had a really horrible day. I was really anxious about the next day. Everything was awful. It was like 3 a.m, and I just got out of bed and I went to my altar. I lit some candles and I just meditated to try to like calm my nervous system or whatever. And as I'm sitting there, I have my eyes closed, right? And I'm breathing, I'm doing the heart breathing, this tummy thing, and I'm all calm. And in my mind's eye, I just see the face of a lioness. And she has a piercing gaze, and she's like this close to me, like right here. And she's looking at me, and around her is all this bright golden light, but it's like also rainbow light, and it's warm and hot on my face. And so I open my eyes. I'm freaked out. And I'm still in my room. I'm still like, the nighttime is outside. I'm watching the wind blow through the trees, and it's like pretty out. I got my candles lit, it's late. I close my eyes again, and she's still there. So I open my eyes again, right? And I'm doing this a few times where I'm like, oh my God, am I falling asleep? Like, is this lucid dreaming? Like, is this a dream? Like, what is going on? And I was a little bit shaken by having such a visceral vision of a goddess, especially one that I have long felt a connection to, but always felt like, you're like a bloodthirsty warrior. I don't really relate to that. I'm more of like, I roll priests and clerics and druids when I play games, like it seemed weird. So anyway, over this summer, I have had dreams of that evening. I've had dreams of waking up out of my bed and going to my altar and having that vision of that same night. It's been coming back to me. And finally I was like, okay, clearly Sekhmet is trying to help me with this new role as the president of this nonprofit. She is trying to step in. I've been begging Isis for help, but I'm not really feeling her guidance here. My other spirit team people that I work with don't quite fit what I need, and Sekhmet just keeps showing up, so maybe I need to listen. And so I started doing some chanting. I started, doing some body movement. One tip that Isis has given me many times over the years is that whenever I'm blocked, to just move and dance to unblock myself. And as Sekhmet sort of came into my life, I felt a very different sensation with her, one that was much more soft and loving and still a warrior, but not bloodthirsty. Now, this is related to the Nana situation, because what I did is I reread all of her myths, I reread her epithets, I reread her history, and I read other people's interpretations, academic and otherwise, UPGs, of her. And I came away with this sense of, wait a second, is this bloodthirsty warrior goddess energy that we've been told about Sekhmet, that we have a myth of? If you're not familiar with Sekhmet, basically, she came to cleanse the world of evil and ended up like killing everybody because she got addicted to the bloodlust, and Ra had to like make her drunk, trick her into drinking a bunch of red alcohol that she thought was blood to get her to stop. And she transformed back into Hathor, the goddess of love, and she was all pacified. And so I was thinking about this myth as like, wait a second, is this actually like some patriarchal retelling of the fury of a woman, of the justice-seeking nature of a woman? She was intoxicated with alcohol without her consent. she was also a spouse and a mother in Memphis. Like, I had all these questions about, okay, the Wikipedia version that we've been given of her is so literally thousands of years removed from her earliest worshipers and her earliest stories. We obviously only have fragments and interpretations of fragments and all those sorts of things, but it made me rethink, like, okay, maybe I have misunderstood what this is about, and maybe I rejected working with Sekhmet based on certain assumptions or certain interpretations that were not built from my direct experience, but that I inherited from elsewhere. So how does this apply to Nana? If I were to rethink about when Nana called to me, which I have a separate video about if you're interested in how that happened, I probably wouldn't see her as some grieving widow. I would probably see her as a woman who really loved her husband. And that matters, right? Because we have thousands of years of history of women being forced to marry when they are still children, being forced to marry men who are much, much older than them, being forced to marry uncles when their husband dies, being forced to remarry quickly in order to not die themselves from destitution. What a gift it would be, like a rebellious, like punk level thing, to be in a marriage where you actually do feel affection and happiness. Maybe one reading of Nana is that she represents sort of the ideal wife, that you can't go on without your man, and that, you know, if your husband dies in battle, you better be as grief-stricken as Nana at the funeral in front of everybody while he burns in the pyre, right? That's a reading you could take. Another reading you could take is, what a loving person to have had the gift to experience such depth of love for the other, for to have a beloved, right? That's another interpretation that you could take. Now, I have not reached back out to Nana. I have not felt her in my life. I can't confirm any of these things for myself, but my point is that I should. My point is that there are many times in life where we set a magical intention, and we are a little annoyed when it doesn't work out the way we wanted, but you know, whatever. But there's more and more times, I think, far more times, because even if you're not witchy or magical, this happens to you, where magic comes into your life. You're called by a god, or some sort of miracle happens, or something that you were missing for years just suddenly appears in a very strange place, where magic comes to you and makes itself known, and for so many different reasons, we just try to shut that door and reject it. Here's what I would like for you to try at the moment. I want you to reflect a bit for yourself on where you might have dismissed a magical occurrence. And I want you to maybe think about where you have just flat out rejected or ignored a certain call. I had a client last week, and she shared with me something that, like, I'm laughing now because I relate to this so much, where she was like, yeah, I mean, I've always felt so called by Isis, but like, she doesn't fit my preferred aesthetic. And I think this happens a lot. It's not just, oh, I don't like the warrior thing, I don't like the grief-stricken widow. Sometimes it can be as simple as, you know, if you're like, if you really identify with like forest girly, Mori K, goblin core kind of stuff, you're not going to be super into maybe like Neptune or Poseidon or like some sort of ocean god showing up to you all the time. You're going to be like, no, I want like forest nymphy vibes, right? Or if you're like an alt goth girl and you're like still like Black Parade is in your car on repeat, like My Chemical Romance is your jam. I say that because I've been listening to the Black Parade a lot recently. You're probably looking for a Hades or a Persephone or a Hell. And it's kind of like, oh, if Hathor shows up, right? You're like, oh, that's not really the aesthetic I was looking for. I think that's valid too. I think aesthetics are such an important part of like our symbolic language, how we express ourselves and our identity, how we interpret the world around us. And there are certain aesthetics that are assigned to different spirits or deities or even types of magic. And when they don't fit our presumption of what it is that would match us or fit us or amplify us, if it doesn't affirm an identity that we're looking to hold, it can be like, oh, right? I imagined myself over the years many times as more of a druidic Egyptian pagan, like more of a druidic style. Like word witchery is my main thing. I love to write poetry. I am from the Pacific Northwest. I play druid in World of Warcraft. I used to. I finally admitted I moved on to other classes, but you know, I had this identity of myself in my head as like, I want to be like a hobbit girl. And so a Sekhmet just didn't affirm that. And that lack of affirmation of what I wanted to be felt almost threatening. It felt off path. But in reality, when I think about the times in my life when I have been the most impactful on other people, it's when I've fought for them. I have had multiple people in my life describe me as a warrior, especially at work, where I don't take shit from executives with a stick up their ass. I have filed more grievance reports than I probably should have. I've won legal cases. I have fought like hell to protect people or to call out things that I think are wrong. And this is a legacy that I've built up. And I used to see it through the lens of me being caring and empathetic and a healer. But in reality, how people experience it, the sort of energy that I'm projecting and doing that kind of work is quite warrior-esque. And so Sekhmet showing up in my life at this time, she's not asking me to let go of my Pacific Northwest forest girly thing, or let go of my poetry or whatever. She's asking me to also wear this mantle of being a warrior woman and wear that in this world. And she can teach me how to wear it. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the exercise I want you to take, is where has magic shown up in your life? And what was it maybe asking you to consider or asking you to do? When Nana showed up in my life, and I'm just realizing this right now as I'm making this video, around that time was when I was really forgiving my husband for some things that happened when we were dating. We broke up like once or twice, I don't know, whatever. We fought a couple times. And I think around that time is when I really fully forgave. Didn't just say it, but fully in my heart forgave and saw where I had been wrong too. And maybe Nana showing up was actually really powerful, and I could have benefited from it had I accepted her call. Perhaps. I don't know, I'm just saying. So, what connections are you potentially shutting down, or have you shut down in the past that maybe deserve another look? And if it's gods that have called to you, I'm not encouraging you to say yes to everybody. Like I said earlier, they have their own motivations and influences. If I was not prepared to really step into a warrior sort of archetype, I probably would still be saying no to Sekhmet, right? And I'm still sort of saying no to Nana, right? I don't want to identify primarily as a wife or something like that. So anyway, I still think that you should, practice your discernment, but it would be interesting for you to reflect on what it is that you're actually discerning. What is actually on offer from these gods or spirits or ancestors? What is it that you're actually saying, I don't know about that? What are you actually saying no to? Is it an assumption that you have? An impression that you have? Or is it something that you verified? Is it something that you have given a little bit more thought to and wondered, okay, if I said yes, how could this potentially serve me or benefit me? We're thinking about. And with that, so like I said, I've been really busy. I haven't been on YouTube much. I do have a series coming up though, so I'm back in it. The worst of the busy period of my life while taking on all these new responsibilities, I think is over. I don't know, we'll see. So things seem to be settling down, but no promises. But I do have a course coming up that I'm very excited about around magical journaling and things like that. But otherwise, if you'd like to work with me, that is where I'm putting the most priority of my time, is working with clients and my pocket witch sessions. So if you'd like a session, basically the main thing is that we would work together for about 3 months, where I create rituals for you. We do tarot readings. I coach you through your goals, your creative project, your career transition. And it's sort of like a ongoing, I am literally in your pocket sprinkling fairy dust on you every week for 3 months. Or if that is too much for you, I do have just single sessions available, and you're welcome to book one of those. And I would love to just meet you and hear about you. Over the last 6 months, I've had numerous people that have actually been following this YouTube channel for like a number of years. And that's been really surprising to me. So thank you for that. It's so cool to actually meet you guys and not like, I don't know, YouTube for me feels a little bit like, I don't know. I feel like every time I upload, I'm like, oh no, is this going to be one of the things that attracts like angry people to my comments or something? And usually nothing happens because, you know, I have like the smallest reach ever. But my point is that it was really good to meet some of you, and I really, really loved it. And thank you for taking the time to book with me and chat with me and tell me about you and what you're going through. And it was so cool to be of service to you directly rather than just in this general sense through a video. So that was really great. So thank you for that. And with that, I will leave you. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. If you would like to work with me, the link is in the description. Otherwise, I will see you soon for the magical journaling course. And otherwise, I will also see you in the comments. Let me know some things that maybe you have put off or rejected or said no to and later came back to, and what happened when you were ready for it. I'm really interested to hear, because this Sekhmet thing has been, for me, a long time coming, many years in the making. And I'm really glad that I have finally said yes. And if you're curious what I play on World of Warcraft now, I am playing a warrior. I've never played a melee class in anything in my whole life. I've always been a caster or a healer. And when I want to be like warrior-esque, I always roll hunter. I love a good bow and arrow. Now I'm playing a warrior and I'm actually vibing with it. It's a good time. So yeah, if you play WoW, let me know. Maybe we can get in the same neighborhood when housing comes out. Okay, bye!